them on their knowledge, delivery, discipline, student-centeredness, and devotion. Because student-centeredness, I had give, made little. In fact, all because we're talking about the topmost faculty there. All the definitions are very, I would say extreme. Knowledge means all round and complete, not only in his subject but beyond that. Delivery that uses various means very effectively to impart his knowledge. Self-discipline should be a very high degree. Devotion has the highest devotion and passion for the teaching profession, and student-centeredness. Students reach out whenever they come across any technical or non-technical problem. I think this is what is expected of faculty. Okay, and again, I haven't quoted all the thing, but many of these philosophers which I mentioned, they have said that thing, and I would quote, but again toward the end, from this perspective, that student-centeredness, that being there for the student, and then when they need us, something that is very important. And even though I was talking about the 25 best faculty from the best college, in the state, and one of the best in India, I found that student-centeredness was statistically significantly lower than others. Okay. I believe that a teacher has to be excellent in subject knowledge and teaching methods, again, but if she doesn't center on student, all that is wasted. Student, even if you are a great teacher, if you have great, but if you do not care for the students, then their engagement with what you're saying becomes lesser and limited. And many times people say that, well, what I'm doing is for their better. Maybe they'll understand afterwards when they go out of the college. And I have found that that doesn't happen, at least in case of college students. I haven't come across a student who said that, well, in the college, this teacher, kind of bothered me. He was not really looking at my needs. And later I realized that it was meant for my betterment. I heard this in the school days, but not in the college days. Okay. So this is something that I guess all of us need to little bit worry about, focus on. Probably on the time. Okay. Then experiments. Design every course activity with some experiments. By experiment, in fact, sometimes when we use this word, student get a little bit alarmed that they think that we are experimenting with their lives or their studies. But one has to understand that this is a research experiment. Okay, and one has to go through that process before one can really use that on a larger population. And what I have found, and you also must have realized that I would come up with some innovation after such experiment, but diffusing them in education is much more difficult. It's difficult in any walk of the life. Okay, I mean, in the industry, I recall at Harvard Business Review giving the data saying that only 1 out of the 3 initiatives succeed. In education, I believe that number would be still worse than that. And I mean, one can analyze that why it is difficult, but it certainly is difficult. There are enough people who are doing research in this area, but the numbers haven't changed significantly. And I'm talking about my experiment, which I did at a college, where I conducted 1-day workshop on innovation in education. And I spoke about some, about 7-8 different strategies that faculty can use in the following semester. This happened last July 2016. And we had 80 faculty who attended, and then I asked them to submit their plan, notice that they would like to do in the coming semester. And we did not compel anybody. We just wanted to see how this thing goes. In that sense, this was kind of an experiment. And we found only 58 people submitted plans. We did not use an executive power. We did not ask the principal that if 80 people have come for the workshop, all of them should submit the plan. We did not say that. We just made appeal faculty at the end of the workshop saying that please submit a plan, and we found only 58 gave the plans. At the end of the semester, we asked them that, so do you think that you succeeded in implementing whatever you had thought of at the start of the semester? And that number was only 41. Now we wanted to compare that if they implement those things, do the students benefit? And therefore we wanted to look at, what is the how many faculty had taught this course in the last year, because we thought we will kind of have a controlled experiment. We will not just take, different faculty and, change of the faculty for the year, for the course. We said that we'll look at a faculty and a course people being, repeated in the next year. That is, if faculty 1 has taken course 1, if same faculty has taken same course in the next year, we thought we'll only compare, their performance. That is, had the student feedback become better for that course given by that faculty after the faculty has gone through the workshop. So we found that only 29 faculty taught the same course in both the years, and we thought we would look at only data of those faculty members. Now, for those, while 41 had said that they believe that they're successful, for these 21, we had a discussion between the college principal and vice principal and the particular faculty to really understand why do they think that they're successful. And then they adjudged that we believe that only 22 faculty are successful. Well, for these 22, there was a change, significant change in the student feedback. But now look at the number from 80 to 41 to 22. And I was not very happy about that thing. So as I said that normally I share my finding with the fielder. This finding also I shared. And if you look at the response, he said that you are unhappy about the drop from 80 to 41 implementers. I will be breaking out the champagne to celebrate a success rate over 50%. It is not that easy to get people to change the way they do things. Okay, so even he felt that this was much better performance. Okay, but then obviously this is not going to help us to really meet our challenges. We have to better the performance. It might be the standard, you can say international standard, but I think in India we have to do certainly better than that. I'm talking about a couple of strategies. One is formative feedback. Appears very innocuous, appears very simple strategy. Okay, and that's if we get into the details, you would realize that why it is difficult to implement even simple strategies. Okay, and I'm just going to talk about some of my insights there. First, I used to conduct regular tests. Okay, as a kind of formative feedback, so I would know how much students are learning and how much I'm able to teach them in a better way. And I found that maybe students are so tensed up that when I announced this scheme, I recall I did this for initial 2 or 3 years. Sorry. So I could see that when I say that now we'll be having say weekly test, okay, not in daily test. Okay, I recall when IIT Delhi, so the Tara used to conduct a daily test. Okay, and I found that to be immensely helpful. So I said, okay, fine, daily is difficult, but at least let's start weekly. And when I had to say that weekly test, I could see that I could immediately see the colors changing on student faces. We used to feel real tense that, well, I have to give so many tests now. Okay, so that doesn't help. I realize. Conducting formative feedback, what I think we call CLT classroom something, I forgot the exact a long form. A 1 minute test, etc. After every class becomes a bit too much, I think students lose interest in that thing. After every week, when you have covered a particular unit topic, I think that appears good enough. And when you try this thing, be prepared to receive 1 or 2 nasty feedbacks once in a while. Could be very nasty. Could be maybe you might have done bad. A particular student might be in a bad mood. But as good as I would not like to learn this subject at all. You might get feedback like this. It could be on personal feedback. So just ensure that they don't pull it down, because I guess many faculty would stop, continuing with this formative feedback when they get that kind of negative feedback. And negative meaning nasty feedback. Negative feedback is fine, saying that can you do this better is fine. But when it's a nasty feedback, some faculty may back out. And I think my request would be that don't do that thing. Continue, because we have to have larger interest of the students in the mind, and not like our own emotion that could be rising up sometime. Okay. Important thing I found is that analyze all the feedback, because I always believe that collecting data and not using it is a criminal activity. Somebody, your students, your colleagues, your peers, if they are giving some data, we need to use that data and make some, get some benefit out of that thing. Okay, understand, have more understanding of what's happening and convey that to the concerned people. Same thing applies for the formative feedback. If you're doing it whatever time, weekly, daily, fortnightly, analyze that thing. What is that they are saying? Okay. And you might find that there's certain things which they are saying that you would be able to change, and you could say that, yeah, these things you have said that, and I'm going to change them. And something they might have said, and you'll have to say that, yeah, these things you have said that thing, but I'm not changing them for this particular reason. Obviously, you have to be the reason also. Okay. I mean, a couple of incidences I recall that when I used to teach, or when I teach now also. So I used to say that I used to wait for a minute or two after the scheduled time and then close the door and start teaching. And then where the next logical break, which could be after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I have to open the door and get the students are waiting outside. I mean, I wouldn't want them to lose the class when they come for the class. At the same time, I wanted to pass the message that no, it is not good to come late because it does disturb people, and it is not a good habit in any case, especially when you join the industry where you have to be punctual. So that's the method which I have been following. And so one day it so happened that I closed the door and I was teaching, and suddenly somebody came over there, and the student could see that somebody has come to the class, and then the whole class erupted in laughter. Okay, and then I saw what had happened, and there was a student waiting, and the laughter happened because that student used to come on time all the time for all the classes, and he was late kind of for the first time. He was a sincere student, and you can imagine that sincere students are a little different social status in the in the class. So I opened the door, and kind of he came in, he sat there. The next formative feedback, many students said that you are partial, that when that student was waiting out, you opened the door and you took him in, but in case of others, you don't do that thing. Then I told them that I got this feedback from many of you, and then I explained that why I do this thing. If I keep the door open, students keep on coming, the whole class, and me as a teacher, would get disturbed. But as I said, I don't want to lose them the whole class, so I asked them to wait outside, and at the next logical break, I get the students in, all of them. But on that day, when all of you started laughing, anyway, there was a logical break. And that's why I said, okay, looks like logical break, all of you are disturbed anyway, so then I can take him in. And then immediately when I conducted next feedback, all those students said that, yeah, I mean, what you said makes sense. So you also get those kind of, confirmation or affirmation that what you're doing is good. Other example, I would talk about teaching pace, and I had 180 students for that particular course. I used to teach that course in a big hall, and one of the difficulty I always believe for a teacher is that how can he make sure to add value to all the students across the spectrum. There are some very bright students, and there are some, for want of better word, dull students. So what that student need is something different, what bright need is something different, what the middle crowd needs is something different. And that I experience with all these 180 students, because there's a wide variation in their cognitive abilities. Okay, so first formative feedback, a lot of feedback was saying that we are too fast. Okay, subject I felt was a little easy, so it was about digital systems. And I was talking about number system in the first few days. So many people said that you are too fast. Then I changed my speed. I reduced my speed. Next feedback, again the number has reduced, but still there are some people who is saying that is still a good number of people are saying that I'm too fast. Again I reduced the speed, and then the number dropped down, but there's still some people. And then I told the class that, see, I mean, I have to manage that I do justice to all the students across the spectrum, and reducing speed below this might not be good for the other end of the spectrum. So let's maintain this speed. And obviously I have to move around after giving some problems in that time. I have to say that ask me questions if you have any questions. Okay, and obviously I have to make myself available to the students to, in my office whenever they have to come and ask questions. And for the bright students, I used to ask them to come to the dais and solve some problems, as well as to teach some other students, because that was the class in the third semester. So normally, as the diploma students come a little late. So then when almost like 16 diploma students came late, because there's 8 per department. I had 2 departments there. So then I asked the bright student to teach the 16 students whatever they learned till that time, and they enjoyed that thing. So that was a way to take care of the bright students as well as the for want of a better word, dull students. So all these happen because of the feedback that you are getting. Okay, and it's a very simple but very helpful and effective technique. And I think there's some Hattie ranking. It's given on the visible.org. And as per that, this is the best teaching effect. That is, conduct or having formative feedback is the best teaching effect. Okay. Then I'm talking about project-based and team-based learning. I've taken the slide that was in between these 2 slides, which was actually talking about the framework which are built, that is the same form, allocate, monitor, and evaluate. I had conducted a webinar on that thing, I guess once or twice on the same platform, so I'm not talking about that. but I'm just talking about some other aspects of using project-based and team-based learning. So one thing is certainly that the team projects you glimpse and prepare students for the professional lives. That's why it is very important. It is not just putting students into study and project teams and grade them, because it is not that simple. There are lot many other elements, activities, dimensions which are involved, and I have spoken about them through that framework. How do I form the teams? How do I allocate the task? How do I monitor their success, their functioning, the team functioning, the task functioning, the project functioning? All those things become important, and then how do I evaluate at the end? And there's a lot of thinking that's required and a lot of time that's required to be spent. I did this obviously for most of my courses, but I recall doing this for that 180 batch. Okay, so I had to teach for the 3 hours, and we had split this batch into I guess 8 practical batches, and each batch had 3 hours of practical. So I used to, while there's some help given to me, but I have to still attend our practical. So in that semester, I had almost 24 plus 3 hours of load. Okay, but then one can't just form the teams and say that now you can work on that. You have to be with the student to really understand how they're doing and give the support and help wherever required. One of the experience that I had gotten as a part of that large batch was I could really go through the effect of Perry's theory of intellectual development. I mean, some of you might have heard about this, or read about it. It's a very good theory, very insightful theory, I would say. In nutshell, I'm just talking about in the four this one bullets. There are books on this thing, and many people have written some papers on that thing also. This Perry, he was actually teaching in Harvard, and he spoke to college students starting from first year to fourth year, I guess for long enough time, around 20 odd years or so. And at the end of that, he found out these things, that students go through these phases of intellectual development or the transition. Okay, in a very simplistic way, when they join, when they come to the college in the first year, for them the teacher is the god, the professor is the god. All knowledge that that is there in that subject area is written somewhere. In that they use the word slate. That is like in Christianity, there's some slate where some knowledge is kept. That is the reference. So there's a slate where all knowledge in this subject is written down. Okay, is there, is tangible, and this teacher, the one who is teaching me, he or she has access to it. So I just listen to him or her, and then I'm kind of illuminated, I'm educated, I'm enlightened in that area. That's the first year. The second year, they realize that looks like there is such a slate where all the knowledge is there, but this professor doesn't seem to have access to it. He doesn't know all. Okay, he gets stuck somewhere. So now these students are getting into the little vast knowledge area, and they're finding that looks like the professor doesn't know it. They still believe that that knowledge is tangible and is written somewhere, but this faculty doesn't know it. In the next phase, which typically happens in the third year, they realize that there is no such slate at all. Forget about the faculty knowing that thing. There is no such slate where my subject knowledge is completely, clearly, unambiguously written. Okay, and in the next phase, which typically should happen in the final year, and that's where project, then capstone project and the final year project become more important, is that knowledge is so nebulous in my subject area, it's so ambiguous in my subject area, and despite that, I have to make commitments. So if I have to, say, for example, build a bridge in a particular area, yes, I could take the soil sample. Yes, I could understand the earthquake data, but do I know that how much that earthquake zones, would they change? What are the reasons when they could change? What could be the intensity of the earthquake? So what kind of material I can use for that thing? There will be many such unknown things that could be there, and despite not knowing about all those things, I have to take some decisions and make some commitments. That's what engineers are supposed to do. When they go out, they have to go with this very clear knowledge that whatever area you're getting into, the knowledge in that area is not a very well defined entity. It's more like a amoeba growing in different directions all the time, and you have to obviously keep on knowing what's happening, but still you will not know all, and despite that you have to make some commitments. Okay, why I'm talking about in this particular context is because they were 180 students, and all 180 students working on different projects. I mean, they were we had 30, at six students per team. So we had 30 teams working on 30 different projects, and that was in second year, first semester. So they used to get, stuck in, in many cases. Okay, so we tried to do best, but at once or so, I felt that, we have started a vendor who was involved in these things. I told vendor that you come and sit here some part of the week, and students will tell you that what components they would need, and you have to provide those components. So one student asked that, which component could be required for this particular function. Now, while I had some idea, I said that, why don't you go and talk to the vendor? And to that, the student later remarked, and I came to know that remark from one of my senior students, that, I was expecting the teacher to know that particular component. And I said that, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not easily possible. And more important is that I want the student to learn how to go and talk to the vendor and get more information. Okay. And because it was second year, I think I had that kind of issue where, they would still feel that the professor is the one who should be having all the knowledge, and they would not understand that the knowledge boundary is so unclear, so uneven, and so growing. Okay. So I think, in that context, I just wanted to state this thing. But, this is a very wonderful theory. I would request you to go through that thing, and perhaps we can have more discussion on that. What I found is that when you do PBL also, if you have project for the whole semester, the typically complex topics in the subject could be happening toward the end of the semester, and people may not be able to experiment with them. So I would suggest that while you can have project right from the start of the semester, toward the end of the second half of the semester, we could be still having some lab classes where they could experiment, they could try out the more complex or the concepts which are covered in the later part of the syllabus. Teams could be dysfunctional as part of these things, and that's very, you have to keep tab on that, understand how teams are doing. We can do different kind of assessment, which I used to do, and still, of course, you may not know everything that's happening in the teams. And I had some of the mechanism to understand what's happening in the team, and that I'll talk on the next slide. But here, if the teams are dysfunctional, there are two things which are suggested, and these are right from the book written by Professor Felder. One is in-class teaching and learning STEM, that's the book name. One is in-class crisis cleaning. So you ask the student that if we have this kind of difficulty, so what is that you would do? So let the student give the feedback on that thing, and then one day give the feedback, because it's a team. Teaming is so natural to people, and if there's some difficulty at interpersonal level, it's better that they talk about what is that they need to do to take care of those difficulties. And second thing I mentioned is that active listening, they actually, because it's written by two people, that is, if two segments, two factions of the team have some issues with each other, it might be one person versus 5 or whatever, 2 versus 4. Let them come and let them state. For example, 2 people have some issue with other 4 people. Let them come and state what is that they are concerned about. And then when they are stating that thing, other 4 are just listening, not interrupting that those 2 people in between. And in fact, after those 2 people complete their version, these 4 people are supposed to repeat what those two people said. That means they really listen actively. And again, they will talk about what difficulty they face with those 2 people, and those 2 people will again repeat that thing. So once you ensure that active listening, many times the team dysfunctioning will reduce. That's what has been the finding, and that's something that we can try out. Now when you do the project, and many times student will work a lot outside the standard lab hours. And how do we know that how much time each student has put for the project? Sorry, because when you're evaluating, you have to understand that thing. And for that, I used to use what I call as a peer evaluation method, which I explain on the next slide, where I would say that each student in the team is given 10 marks, and based on the quality and quantity of the work that has been put by each person on the team on the project, they would divide those 10 marks, including themselves. And then I would evaluate the project, because I would know what has happened in the project overall, what kind of thing I can see, what kind of outcome I can see. And then I would, scale up or scale down the marks based on, their peer evaluation. And interestingly, you would find that, peer evaluation is reasonably accurate. So if you look at this particular table, okay, the first student, okay, he has given marks which are given in the first column. So team member 1, so he has given himself 1 mark out of 10. Okay, he has given other 3 people 1 mark each and 2 people 3 marks each. So in his mind, only 2 people work there in the team, or they work much more than the others. Okay, and he could say that I am one of the lowest. So he kind of accepted that thing. Look at the second person. Now, second person has given, again, if you look at the highest marks, team 4 and team 6, team member 4 and team member 6, they have gotten the highest marks. But he also has put himself at the same level, and others he has put at a little lower level. Okay, so he is a little bit, perhaps not very accurate, but at the same time, he has not given marks himself more than the 2 topmost students. Okay, like that, you will find that the variation that happened there is generally less than 10%. Okay, which is a pretty good. That means people understand that who is doing work. And if these team of 4 and 6, they appear to have gotten highest marks from everybody. That means people recognize who is putting good work. And I would not, as a teacher, know the fact that 4 and 6 are really doing great work as compared to other people. So I use this data and I scale up or scale down the marks of each student based on the total project marks. The project has, for example, 70 marks. Then for a student, he should rank 2 marks. So in anything about 2, for example, if somebody has 2.7, his marks will be scaled up, and 2.325, his marks will be scaled up, and others' marks will be scaled down accordingly. Okay, and then time-wise, okay, yeah, in 5 minutes I'll complete this thing now. So faculty awards, most of people on this call would be faculty members, and I believe that faculty is the most important element in the performance of an academic institutions. I mean, for a good academic institute, you would need good students, you would need good infrastructure and good faculty. But faculty is the one who would take care of you in the other 2. If I have good faculty, automatically my student intake will change, my infrastructure will change. Okay, and other important thing is that faculty is a stable factor. Students come and go after 4 years. Faculty remains there. Okay. Also, unlike infrastructure, it's an active factor. It can do something. So faculty is the most critical element for any institute to succeed. Okay. And their performance depends on the goal clarity. So do they know what they want to do? Do they know what they're supposed to do? So having that goal clarity helps a lot. And I actually collected data on faculty's goal clarity and the performance, and I found very strong correlation between the 2. Okay. SET, that is student evaluation of teaching, is one part of the evaluation. It's perhaps the most important part, but it's only a part. It is not, that is, we can't depend on judging faculty's teaching effectiveness based only on that. It is the major part, but it is not the only part. Okay, SET depends largely on faculty and not on course. So if a faculty one takes course 1 or course 2, the SET would be still at the almost same level. And if faculty 2 takes same course 1 or same course 2, then the SET could be at a different level because the faculty is different. Okay. Typically in the SET, most of us know that thing, there is a very poor, response rate. Even if you get more than 20%, we feel happy about it. Certainly, we have to find out what is that we need to do so that we can get better response. Perhaps, as I know that when I used to talk to students, they used to say that if you give feedback, nothing happens, nothing changes. We give feedback at the end of the semester. What is the use of that thing? Formative feedback helps, in that context, because whenever you start formative feedback, it is to come from many students. But then, end of the semester feedback, which is not acted upon, people feel that, there's not much point. It is not that whatever they are saying has to be done. Okay, the way, I spoke about that, my experience with the formative feedback. But we should tell them that this is the analysis of the feedback that we are given. These are plus point, minus points. If required, we could, talk about some faculty names if it's absolutely required. And then we could say what action we are taking, and if yes, why, and if no, again, why. So once they know that's happening, then I'm sure that their participation will become better. But the important thing I found out is that students who perform, not so good, they don't participate. So you don't know what is ailing, what is missing, what is that we can do to engage them better. So perhaps we need to have some other method to involve them into this process. And again, because I thought it's important, so I'm repeating this part. Good faculty in general did not do well on student centeredness. I just recall that particular graph. And then I'm giving a quote by Acharya Vinobaji. If students who spend most of their waking time in colleges cannot find a faculty who can guide him in case of personal difficulties, it's a colossal failure of faculty. So that engaging with students is so important. I don't think we can be satisfied by only giving the subject knowledge. Auto dena hai, that's important. But certainly, if we want them to succeed, we have to go beyond that. Okay. So toward the end, the field of education, which holds seeds of the future of the children of the soil, require absolute sincerity and boldest experiment, provided they are based on deep, matured, and sanctified thoughts. Quote from Young India. And any questions?
Thank you, sir. Audience are requested to type in their questions in the chat window. How is technology more important in today's engineering education?
How is technology
more important in today's engineering education?
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, technology can be used while teaching in terms of this learning management system like Moodle or Blackboard. I can use games. I can use puzzles, and yesterday Professor Manisha spoke about using games and puzzles. I can use simulations. If I want students to, for example, develop a circuit, instead of giving them components, they can as well do the simulation first, understand that the circuit works better, and then get the components. So just to, when I spoke about that 180 students class, 30 projects that were completely unique from each other. Third semester student first time working on some project and certainly component. There was not a single component which was burnt because we use the simulation tools there. So it can be used, in terms of the actual teaching. It can be also used for the administration. I mean, right now I keep on hearing that faculty, a lot of time goes on non-productive activities, menial activities. That because we just don't use ICT for doing the automation. So what it takes more time. And every time there is any award process, the accreditation requirement, all faculties are requested to give their papers, publication details, all those things. I mean, why can't those details be put at a particular place and can be taken out from that place as and when required? So, technology can be of great help in doing that thing. MOOC is another example, okay? But MOOC, I believe, can replace the faculty, can supplement the faculty. Now, technology can play a huge role, especially in India, in terms of meeting the requirements of the today's students and their educational needs.
What is Hattie ranking?
Yeah, I think that one particular site, visible.org, so they had just ranked. Some Hattie must have done that ranking. They must have said that, okay, fine, what is the effectiveness of different teaching techniques, and as a part of that thing, they found that formative feedback has the best ranking. Visible.org was the site. I think they could find that.
How does peer evaluation help in team building?
How does peer evaluation help in team building? When I introduced that thing, it was more from the perspective of being fair to the to the students. Okay, because even for BTech project where we have less number of students, I found that some students will keep on talking to you but will not do sufficient work in the background. So if we just go by our perception and give students different grades also, I feel that it will be unfair to them. So I want to understand really who has done the best possible work. Okay, and based on that, I want to grade them. So I introduced that more from the perspective of being fair in the evaluation. If you want to build a team, which obviously is required, I do other thing, that is there is a different team assessment metrics. One is by Oland, OHLAND. So I use that thing, and that will tell each team member how they are doing, what is their self assessment, and what is the, for example, that is, do I contribute, in the meeting? Do I listen to other people in the meeting? Now I might be having perception about myself, okay, but others may think differently. So I get that data, and I then give a sheet to each student saying that this is what you felt about these parameters, and this is what your teammates felt about these parameters. So there's a gap, then that team member has to work on that thing. Okay. Beside that thing, there's also, which I did not actually use, but you can ask team members to develop a team contract. Okay, that what are the rules that they will follow in while working as a team, and that would help to minimize the friction and work better as a team. One can also use MBTI assessment, and tell people that, because MBTI assessment is a very good feature. It just divides students or any participant, anybody, into 16 different categories, which are the unique behavioral patterns. And when anybody, student or the people who are undergoing that assessment, understand that I am behaving in a particular way, other person is behaving in a particular way, that person's response to the same situation is different, and it's going to happen. And so I can't expect that everybody responds to the given situation the same way. I have to understand that responses can be different, and I have to still respect that response and that person. That not doing that comes in the way of building better teams. And if we do that using this MBTI assessment, which is a very well-known assessment, 2 million people take that assessment every year in the world, then that could help.
Do we use different types of learning, like blended learning, active learning?
Active learning, obviously, I've been using a lot. Blended learning to some extent, I would say. Flipped learning, I haven't yet tried. Okay, and I don't think that that's what I felt, that I haven't had students where I felt that they will, if I give them to go through some video, etc., and come back and we can have a discussion on that thing. I felt that may not yet happen. That's why I haven't tried blended learning. In terms of I always use some videos in the session, one or the other, and then we discuss that video. So from that perspective, I do use blended learning. I do with active learning. Flipped learning is something that I haven't used so far.
Is it better to encourage the students in research instead of preparing them for semester exams? Colleges are mostly telling us to complete the syllabus on time and not to hear their innovative ideas. Is there any remedy for this problem to encourage students in research as well as exams?
As well as?
Exams.
Yeah, so the question is that there's a pressure on completing syllabus and giving exam, and when they are doing that thing, students don't have any time or energy left for doing any research. I guess that's the question. Am I right? Just let me get a confirmation. Maybe you can just raise the hand. The question, the person has asked the question. I can see that right here. Is that right? I just want to, because it was a long question, I just want to confirm that I got the question right. Can I get Sridhar, can I get confirmation? Okay, fine. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, sir. He said yes, sir.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, good. Yeah, this is a challenge, especially if it's affiliated college, it's a challenge. Unfortunately, today we see that college is successful only when you've gotten good academic performance, you've gotten good passing percentage and good ranks and whatnot. So there it is difficult. I guess you have to just stretch your students and show them the better side. So they have to obviously take care of their academics. The way, for example, any student who is in 12th, I obviously have to tell him that first focus on your BE and this NEET, etc., and not on other aspects of development, because that becomes very critical also. In the same way, we have to obviously tell them that focus on these things because they are important. But then beyond that, if you can stretch somebody and say that, yeah, also show them better sides, that could be good. But I agree, I appreciate that there's a challenge in this area which can be easily overcome. We have to keep on trying. We have to keep on finding out students at least who can some student at least who can stretch beyond the normal syllabus, normal curricular needs, and do something better. I don't have very good answer on that. It's that, unfortunately. But some the many students who would respond to that thing and would really go beyond that thing. There won't be too many, but certainly there will be many students.
So thank you, sir. That was the last question. Thank you very much for the webinar.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much.